Okay, ready to go. All right, first of all, everybody can hear me, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm telling you, you guys are really, really a blessing from God, because my usual average size of audience is about 5. Beyond my expectations, so thank you, Hal, for bringing me here. Well, as you can see, we're going to try to talk about this thing called global warming. Sometimes it's called global weirding, sometimes it's called climate change, sometimes it's called climate disruption. Sometimes it's even called, in the name of the great satanic gas called CO2. You guys know what CO2 is, right? Right here, that's it, CO2. Then you're going to kill your children and grandchildren. By the way, even though I work as a professional scientist, I do have to say that I come here strictly on my own free will and speak on my own behalf. Thank you very much. Because they are really coming very, very hard after me. As you can see, I appeared in the front page of New York Times. Let's stare at this for a few seconds. It's a wonderful planet, isn't it? By the way, it's taken from about 1.5 million kilometers, so it's about 930,000 miles away. It's a very special position that the satellite will sit there to watch the planet Earth. It's a beautiful planet. And these folks are saying that we are going to be here by using this so-called fossil fuel or this carbon dioxide coming out. My God, we're going to kill everything. This is really, really a very strange proposition, by the way. They have it all the time backwards and sideways and all whatever you have it, it's just all wrong. And then we got leaders like this. I'm sorry, we'll talk about science obviously, but then you can see this whole thing has been hijacked by political movement. We have the Pope essentially quoting the Bible, say that we're all blind and stubborn and stupid if we don't believe in UN IPCC. If some of you may have even heard the news, Stevie Wonder only say that we're either blind or stubborn, something like that, but we're not so, stupid. But then you can see the Pope is actually asking us that we have to trust the scientists. By the way, 91% or 99% or 97 whatever percent. Science has never ever worked by voting, isn't it? It's nothing but the truth, I'm sorry. Yes? Because it's very, very silly. In fact, how do we even get to this stage by saying that, well, I'm going to vote how dangerous this carbon dioxide is. If you don't believe it, I'm going to put Willie Soon in jail. If you don't believe it, I'm going to put Pastor Earl in jail. Are you kidding me? It doesn't work like that. So I'm going to answer the Pope that I'm a scientist. I'm a humble scientist. I disagree with you. So I'm going to try to answer the question on science. Then I want to start by this favorite scientist, the science advisor to the Pope, at least to the Pontifical Academy in the Vatican, which just gave a recent talk at Oxford University, making that sort of claim that we are actually trying to kill our children and grandchildren by using fossil fuel if we don't stop it right now, because that's what they want. And then typically science talks will be like this. They were showing graph, and this is one of the graphs that he shows that actually bothers me a lot. Because the good professor, when he showed this graph, by the way, is showing you that the warming by 2100 AD, so that's about 90 years from 80 some years from now, that it shows that the planet's temperature will warm basically anywhere from 0 to about 8 degrees, according to the great professor. And probably it will be around 4 degrees Celsius. By the way, that's about 8 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the great professor asked, he pointed the 5% level, which is about 6 degrees Celsius warming, or 12 degrees Fahrenheit. The great professor asked, would you all be willing, so he's playing the psychological part, would you all be willing to put your loved one on that plane that has 5% odd of crashing? 5%, by the way, science is all about number, but believe me, you all can understand that. It's only 1 over 20. I guess the great professor is exaggerating quite a bit, by the way. The chances of, if you look at the latest statistics, I look up one of the May 2017 statistics. The chances of an airplane crashing now on average is 1 of 29 or 30 million. The professor is off by only a factor of 1 million. That's highly embarrassing for a person who actually try to manipulate your emotion rather than give you facts, okay? Which bothers me the most. This is the kind of people I have no respect. I'm so sorry I disagree with him. By the way, I hope he come and hear this talk, by the way. The tape is for him to see. And then I want to show one of the latest results that is being produced by my good friend Christopher Monckton of Branchley. He's actually a lord. He's from England. This is one of the results that we produce. This graph is actually showing you that what should you expect the climate, the planet to warm. Let's say if you double the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, okay? In the early days, the estimate is all very high. So it's very much in agreement to the great professor who gave the talk in 2017. But apparently that they refuse to read some of the papers that we've been publishing, okay? And they are showing lower and lower numbers. And we're completely ready to defend how we came up with that numbers. This is about discussion, this is about debate. If anything that I do that's wrong, guess what? Am I going to hide or saying that, oh, no, you're wrong, you're deniers and all that? I'll just say, I'm wrong. So I apologize. So I love to have a debate with this kind of professor, by the way. So I'm quite confident about a number. This is why part of the debate about science is that what are the facts? We are giving you the facts. So please, let's discuss this topic. So this is why, it's very bothersome. They put their own grandchildren, kids, as if that we all want to murder our own children and grandchildren. How dare you, pull that kind of stunt. So I like this quote the best because this guy, Steve Malloy, is one of the heroes of mine. He kind of have a very good saying. If God really hated CO2 so much, he wouldn't have made life depend on it. By the way, CO2 is indeed gas of life. So as I will show you later, how the planet really depends on this particular CO2 that we need. And then there are a lot of those who call America last and the hater of America. This is one of my nemesis, by the way, Professor Michael Mann from Penn State University, who is finally announcing just a week ago that, my God, Syria has now signed on to this so-called Paris Climate Accord. So we have about now 198 countries signed on to this, except the United States that we are saying, we actually signed already by Obama, but President Trump, June 1st of this year, said that we're going to pull out of it. Okay? I think that we should do it. It's not about chit-chat and talk. Let's look at the facts. Look at that. 21st century, starting from 2000 to 2016. Look at the list of all the countries. Who are the ones that actually reduce their carbon dioxide emission? It's the United States. We are number one. This is the reason why we don't have to pull out UNFCCC. By the way, this is not the reasoning. The reasoning is completely flawed. Okay, this is all related to economics activities and so on and so forth, right? We are in a stagnation of our economy. We borrow ever more and more and more money, and they are just still talking about this nonsense about limiting carbon dioxide, which really we need all of it as much as possible, by the way. And then I took the courage from hearing my good friend Pastor Earl Wallace, who actually said that God created man in his own image. We are part of nature, my God. Am I not natural? Don't you see that I'm so natural? I mean, something so artificial about me, right? That I know how to manipulate computer. We turn silicon. This sense that's spreading on the sea. We turn it into silicon. We make computer. My God, is that wrong? And then we know how to fertilize. This is just to show you the statistics of how through science and technology, if you mess around with science and technology, that really bothers me, excuse me. Because we are able to feed ever more people. These people really don't like people, by the way. So maybe they have. I like them to state their position as clearly as possible. I like to have more people in the whole world because I think it's a blessing. Okay? So don't be afraid. And indeed, this is part of a religion, the CO2 religion, by the way. It's not a formal religion, but it's as close as religion as it can come because none of their ideas and their statement can be scientifically tested or challenged or studied or whatever. Okay? This is why I like this quote from Thomas Jefferson, the founders, who say that the moment a man forms a theory, his imagination sees only the objects, the traits that favor that theory. Shame on them, because this is trying to point to how we humans kind of have to very, very susceptible to that sort of flaw. And here's one of the examples. The UN, right? You all know about. Anybody know what IPCC is, right? It's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So obviously intergovernmental, that's not a scientific, inter-scientific or whatever. But it shows you that in 2010, they were already reporting on the stuff that is coming out 3 years later, like 2013. That they say that the next report will be more worse. It's a very curious phenomenon, by the way. Every time they use the word climate change, somehow the climate change can never ever be good. It's always a bad thing. It's a really strange phenomenon actually. I haven't seen anything in life that you have a change that is only produce negative outcome. I have never seen such a proposition. And yet it's very common phenomenon in the United Nations report. By the way, they're having a very major party, spending huge amount of money in Bonn, Germany now for 10 days or so, by the way. And then, by the way, for the next report that is coming out, the 6th assessment report, they've been producing this since 1990, by the way, so it's been ongoing. It's kind of hard to get rid of this whole thing. I just wish that President Trump would just say we'll pull off the whole thing completely, not to wait till 2020, for example. And this is the stuff that they are actually actively saying. They are already distributing documents directly essentially saying that it's going to be worse than we can and that sort of thing. So the report that's supposed to come out in 2022, by 2017, now they're a bit earlier, 5 years ahead of time, to say that things is going to be big, bad and bad and bad and bad. Okay? Now it's time to take a pause and think. Here's this puzzle. So see if you guys can answer this. You have a bat and a ball. Together they cost $1.10. The bat actually costs $1 more than the ball. So who wants to give me the answer? How much does the ball cost? 10 cents, right? In fact, you guys are close to the majority. You all know that 10 cents is wrong, right? By the way, over 50% of MIT students answer 10 cents. And then there are large college students up to 80 to 90%, including Harvard, by the way. But you know the right answer is 5 cents. Because answer 10 cents only satisfy one of the criteria. $1 plus 10 cents is $1.10, right? But $1 minus 10 cents is not $1. Is 90 cents. It's not $1. The only solution is 5 cents. 105 plus 05 plus 5 cents is $1.10. 105 minus 5 cents is $1, right? It shows you that that's how they get you. They get you through this kind of sort of human tricks, by the way. This is actually a Nobel Prize kind of insight in economy, by the way. Now I want to get down to business. I'm going to explain science, obviously. We'll talk a lot about science. I'll show you charts, but please don't be afraid. If you ever have any question, maybe not tonight, you know what I mean? Think about it. You know a bunch of us, Pastor Wallace, Hal Shadley, myself, and Ed Clement, all these people were here. Just, contact us. I want to show you this children's book, produced by so-called Laurie David, which is here next to Al Gore, the producer for Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. They were really bad luck because the first day this book came out, I happened to be at the bookstore. That's about 2007 or so with my eldest son, so we went there. I picked up the book, and then I turned on the page. The first thing is saying, the more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the higher the temperature will climb. All right? Okay, let's go. And then they it's very simple. They always have to lead you. The more it's so the lower it is, less warming, so the cooler itself. Okay? So now you can see this relationship for yourself by looking at the graph to your left. Okay? So you take a look. So that's the page. Page 18 is the flip page. So you can see how well CO2 and temperature go together. Up and down like dancing, okay? So they show this graph. What a marvelous graph. Okay? First of all, you can see old time 650,000 years ago from your right-hand side, and then present to the left. You can see with the label, you can see that carbon dioxide, which is the orange curve, go up, and then the temperature go up, and then it follow that, right? Willie Soon should go home if this were to be true. But they were really bad luck because you know why? They actually put out, because of the words that they use, they want to fool kids. This relationship has been known for a long time. It's the reverse, okay? They actually were even changing the graph to try to cheat, to hope that nobody will catch it. And I caught it the first day the book came out, so I felt bad for them. I wrote a letter to Scholastic, the #1 children's book. They refused to change it for a while, by the way. The correct curve is temperature happens first, CO2 goes up. So science is very important, remember. You guys know about causality, right? Cause and effect. If you get the cause and effect mixed up, you're not talking about science, by the way. They're trying to tell you that, lung cancer causes cigarette smoking. That's basically what they're saying. It's a very puzzling thing, and then they still want you to say, oh yeah, you're so smart, I'm clapping hand, and so good. It's just ridiculous, these people. And then when I wrote to them to try to correct the truth, just simply asking for fair and balance, they refused. They say, who are you, Willie Soon? You're troublemaker, you're trying to do this, do that, you know? By the way, it's known, I want to show you some quotes from the scientific literature, okay? It clearly says that Antarctic ice cores show carbon dioxide increased by, that much. I'll explain to you what parts per million mean. It's actually 600 years for this particular case after the warming. This shows you that the way the carbon cycle works in the atmosphere, right? You have to warm the ocean, release more of the CO2 carbohydrate from that. It's not the other way around. That's the problem. And then another example, more recent paper, shows that it applies every single time you study this. So it's almost as close to scientific facts, kind of a confirmed facts. Because every time it's not the CO2 go up first and then the temperature follows. It's always the temperature warm or cool and then the atmospheric CO2 go up and go down in response to it. Okay? So when I wrote a letter, they actually sent in a very disgraceful kind of guy. Professor Michael Oppenheimer, Barbara Schweitzer, professor of government and politics, by the way. He's a trained chemist, but he didn't make it in chemistry, so he turned into a politician. So, look at what he said. He said he had reviewed the figure. It appears that the labeling of the axis has been reversed. As a result, the curve label, this should be that and blah, blah, blah. But, they always have a big but, which is really like a big but. The description of figure in the accompanying text is accurate. It fairly represents the current state of scientific knowledge in terms that will be comprehensible to 8 years old. They expect the 8 years old to actually see behind the BS, right? I'm so sorry. They have a dare to write that kind of letter, put it on my face. Don't you think these people should be fired? I'd like to be like President Trump. You're all fired, man. Anyway, now, by the way, what year is this now? 2017? Am I right? 2017? I want to tell you that you still got this kind of people around. This time it's another scientist. I really, really felt bad for them. But the question is that it's so sad. Would you hire guys like this? They are working for the government, we are paying them paycheck, having them a comfortable life. So this is the talk, by the way. It's a very prestigious lecture. Maybe not as prestigious as this one, right? The one that we're giving here. It's called a Beckmann. Beckmann is a very famous fluid dynamicist from Caltech, California Institute of Technology. So this person by the name of Alex Garner, a scientist, I wouldn't call him a scientist, I should put a quote there, so I'm sorry. He gave a talk on sea level and climate change. Here's a screen grab. He said, okay, you see how a scientist giving a talk? By the way, he did indeed talk to the public, so don't blame him. He tried to make it simple. So he said, well, it's simple. When CO2 goes up, temperature goes up. He put a quote. He's sitting there, he don't dare to say this, but he put a quote, he's quoting this Professor Richard Alley from Penn State. Okay? And then he showed the same graph that I was trying to show you, right? Or the one that those guys were plotting. So it's been a long time, we know this for a fact, it's so clear, so you all should just go home because carbon dioxide is so dangerous. But the poor guy, by the way, when you zoom in on the results, I bet that if you're not scientific trained, you really don't understand what's going on, but you look at the label of the axis, this is the problem, this is a scientist. I'm so ashamed to call him a scientist. By the way, you look carefully. On that label there, by the way, this is not temperature in absolute unit. It's a temperature change, reference to a period. So 0 actually don't mean anything, but the fellow is so clueless. This is a real full-time scientist. I don't trust his measurement, by the way. He converted to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you understand? It's the temperature change relative to something, and then you go and convert to absolute unit in Fahrenheit because you're American, you all don't understand what Celsius is in Fahrenheit. You're not so smart. What a mistake, by the way. It's just so bad. I mean, this is 2017 and he's still pulling the tricks. Trying to lead people to the false conclusion that it's CO2 controlling the climate system, which means carbon dioxide go up, temperature go up. But he didn't, throughout the whole talk, he didn't talk about the relationship that is well known, that is the opposite. This is how scared they are. Okay? They couldn't even stand on this kind of simple fact, don't even want to explain to the audience. Such a disservice to humanity. Now, we got to talk a little bit quickly about the hurricane, because it's been, people are saying, right, see, come on, right here, it's going to cause the hurricane over there to change something. I don't know, I don't think so. By the way, even my emotional talk is not true, it's about numbers. So I try to explain to you. So is it true that some are getting worse? By the way, this is how they presented this result in our so-called national assessment a few years ago. Okay? And they actually showed this graph to try to say that, look, if you look at the so-called PDI, which is actually the intensity of the hurricane, starting in the North Atlantic, so they only plot that result is showing that it's increasing. But then they immediately got caught. If you add more data in, you can see. I mean, this is our US National Assessment Report, and we're paying 13 different government agencies to produce that kind of weak result that show only the red line. Didn't want to have an audacity to show people that they're actually hiding data. These data are universally agreed is that they're really using graphic tricks, short-term kind of a impression. You know, they really think that you can go home and go sleep and hide away. Nobody gonna know about this thing. So what kind of people is this, you know? And then, of course, that's what I'm saying. The most accurate forecast you can is that every time there's a hurricane, there's a drought, there's forest fire, it's gonna be all CO2, okay? It's 100% chance. In fact, here's one of the statements. I like to put this quote because this guy is actually a liberal. His name is Professor Clifford Mass from University of Washington. But he couldn't even make himself. He has a bit of a conscience, by the way. He's a trained meteorologist, very smart man. He said that you just cannot pin this global warming on something that extreme. Because to claim that the hurricane is caused by CO2 is basically like, you know, you put like 0.1 to 0.5 degrees Celsius to the, you know, like 28 degrees or so, because that is about the temperature that in the sea that you need to have this so-called vertical convection. The water is going up to, let's say, the troposphere up to try to do something in the atmosphere. Minimal. So it's really not possible. So indeed, we can say that these are the people that is guilty if carbon dioxide is doing that. By the way, when those hurricanes are striking on land, I have to tell you, my only sincere most thing is that thank God for fossil fuel, because without fossil fuel, if we were to be running the whole machinery under all of this, you know, wind, solar, and all this stuff, we'll be really, really serious trouble. In fact, one of the nuclear power plants in Houston was actually working, still functioning. Without that, you'll be even far worse condition. But here, talking doesn't matter. You look at the time in which from 1926 to 69, by the way, that's when the CO2 level is slowly rising, but very, very small amount. And then it started to go up very rapidly, let's say after 70 or so. You look at the statistics. There was a lot more strong and landfalling hurricane during those past than right now when you have much higher CO2 level. Are we saying that the rising carbon dioxide caused less hurricane? Maybe they like to claim that. By the way, science, you cannot do that. This is just some statistic to try to guide you that what they're claiming is just not true. And then if you want actual number, if you rank by how strong this hurricane is, look at that. Number one, the strongest ever detected is 1935 Labor Day hurricane. Okay? 1935, there's not much CO2 at that time in that sense, you know. And then you can look, 1886, Harvey is only ranked about 14, okay? So you couldn't even try to make a case at all. I'm so sorry for them. Because they just don't want you to see this number, by the way. Indeed, that was 1935 is one of the strongest. You have up to, I don't know, that many people dying, right? But does that also have to do with anything? It really has nothing to do with CO2. By the way, flooding. Look at the complaint about flooding in Houston, right? The event that happened in September. It has nothing to do with any CO2 or anything. It's about us. Human population. Here is to try to show you that the level of impermeable surface, right, in the 1940s versus 2017. We got far more of this because we built all this stuff. It's about planning. It's about city planning, not enough drainage. That sort of problem. What does that have to do with carbon dioxide in the first place? And if we want to think about flooding is bad, here's an example of very, very serious flooding in December of 1935, by the way, not related to hurricane at all. But there is a major flooding in downtown Houston. 54 feet. Okay? That shows you how powerful natural forces are. Okay? Don't mess with it. This is as if, indeed, this cartoonist gets the essence of the thing. It is as if, by the way, the first question you should ask them is this also indeed. What level of CO2 do you want it to be? And if I lower it to, let's say now today 400, if we lower it to 300, what does it do? Less hurricane? That's basically what this guy is saying, right? If you sign a treaty, maybe the hurricane will go away, I don't know. And here's the only sure thing about hurricane. This is what it does to all the solar power plant, according to those guys. Not only that, during this kind of time, during disaster time, you know what you always get? You get that kind of scum. Excuse the language, this is really bad people. I call him the most subsidized human being in the world, on the planet. And he's still trying to propose that he can try to, you know, put this Tesla solar power for Puerto Rico. You know, who actually, by the way, I just saw a number, they need about $94.4 billion from us. Whew, a lot of money to spend. But now, let me have a proper introduction about who Willie Soon is, okay? Now, so that you know where I'm coming from.
When it comes to denying the human impact of global warming, Republicans have it down to a science.
If climate change is a problem, and do you believe it is or not? Do you believe
I'm not a scientist.
I don't know the science behind climate change.
Well, listen, I'm not qualified to debate the science over climate change.
What is your take on global warming for climate change? I'm not a scientist.
I'm not a scientist. It's their favorite line. And when they do actually talk about scientists, they usually point to people like Dr. Willie Soon. He's the darling of the right-wing climate denier caucus. He says greenhouse gases just aren't that bad for you. Senator Inhofe has repeatedly cited his work over the years. The same Senator Inhofe who once said this about climate change.
The fact that all this is happening is due to man-made gases, I really believe is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on the American people.
The greatest hoax ever perpetrated. And to back him up, he pointed to people like Dr. Soon.
These are scientists that cannot be challenged.
I'm not too sure about that, Senator, because the New York Times reports Dr. Soon has accepted $1.2 million in funding from the fossil fuel industry, which he hasn't disclosed in most of his scientific papers. Interesting. A guy pushing back on climate change debate while getting paid by oil and gas companies. Well, I'm not a scientist, but I can sure spot a potential conflict of interest when I see one. So nice try. But don't even try to deny this one, because we got you.
Look at the mirror. Look at the mirror.
I couldn't make myself to actually get New York Times, of course, so I follow a copy from Greenpeace. By the way, this is truly a witch hunt. Everything they say is just out of context. $1.2 million over 15 to 20 years, and then all the money never comes to me. I don't own the money. The money comes through my workplace, my center. You want to sue Harvard or Smithsonian, go for it. And nothing to do with me. I simply write a scientific proposal. Whoever wants to fund me, by the way, Greenpeace, you're welcome to fund me. I love to fund me. As long as you don't tell me what to write and what to say. That's how uncorruptible I am. So indeed, I think some of this quote is really relevant. Do not fear the enemy, for your enemy can only take your life. It's far better that you fear the media. They'll steal your honor, right? That kind. Just really, really amazing to be accused of being a conflict of interest by a guy like Reverend L. Shelton. All right, there's a long story to this, by the way. If you want any question, I'll explain fully to you later. But now I want to talk a little bit about this renewable energy. This thing that is so convenient that all of a sudden that we should not use fossil fuel. But we all know what the name of the game is to tax the air. Okay? And tell them that we're saving the planet. Right? This guy, by the way, the famous Canadian singer, by the way, is the Prime Minister. And then, of course, David Suzuki, one of the old-timer hippies, who tell us that we are human like maggots. We're like maggots when he's high on the drugs. I mean, do you really trust this kind of people? They call themselves a climate Barbie, by the way. Here's a quote, a direct quote from the UN IPCC official who wrote those reports. He's saying that we distribute, de facto, the world's wealth by climate policy. Basically, it's a big mistake to talk about climate policy separate from the major themes of globalization. One has to be free oneself from the illusion that international climate policy is an environmental policy. This has nothing to do with environmental policy anymore. They say it outright. Do I have to say anything more? And then, of course, the former Canadian Minister of Environment, no matter if the science is all phony, they are collateral environmental benefit. Climate change provided the greatest chance to bring about the cosmic justice and the equality in the world. I like to add the word cosmic justice. I don't know what kind of equation they're looking at. It's more and more of this kind of stuff, by the way. So you have Sierra Club promoting this sort of stuff, right? Kids deserve this clean energy tree. That sort of nonsense. Showing this graph, I only wanted to point to you how bad things are now. These are really big corporations, okay? Greenpeace, they are not green and not peaceful. They are very, very big corporation. They are running an operation at a $400 million a year kind of operation. So no wonder you keep hearing this sort of a news and stuff like that. Sierra Club themselves is over 100 million. EDF, by the way, based in New York City, Environmental Defense Fund is $140 million a year. NRDC, National Resource Defense Council, these people want to defend nature, these people. Okay, they really are have that audacity to defend nature. And then I want to say, if you were to really play this game of taxing energy, you're actually trying to punish people for being poor. Okay? On this graph here, you can see the proportion of the income for people that make less than 20,000 all the way to 120,000 that is being spent. The proportion of the money is being spent on energy, let's say, using electricity. There are people now literally in UK and Australia who actually don't have money to heat their home. Okay? And these people are still talking. In America, I'm quite sure we have similar situation. There are many, many poor people. Okay? So you really want to propose more tax to energy, huh? And then every single time, I tell you, the fossil fuel company needs to be defended occasionally, even though they're actually buying into this whole business nonsense, really. It's sad. They claim that it's always the coal and the gasoline and petroleum are being heavily subsidized. But look at that, you compare coal, subsidized at a level of 50 cents per unit energy, right? And solar is $230, 500 times almost, right? So every time they make that kind of argument, I think you've got to use some facts to counter them. You know, what are you talking about exactly? Show me your data. Don't be afraid, because that's the way to engage them. Hopefully they will change their mind. By the way, one of the most dishonest things is that they say, this renewable energy, you know what it will do? It will change the paradigm. It will bring in more energy. They bring me more jobs. This is one of the jobs I like to propose for them to do during the winter. A very secure, clean energy job. And here's for summer, of course. You're going to do something in the summer, you got to work. So one of the jobs for summer will be this one. I get cut some grass. And then don't worry, you also need to clean the dust, because sometimes the efficiency, the coding and all that is going to be a problem. By the way, my good friend's father was one of the pioneering engineers in Malaysia, went to Australia and studied, got his master's degree, came back, tried to put this system into Malaysia. It never worked in the 70s. Okay? Think about it. It just doesn't work. And then, of course, more of this kind of stuff. The windmill doesn't work either. And then this Tesla, he doesn't ask where the electricity is going to come from, this battery, you know. I'm so sorry for this Elon Musk guy. This is why, and then in winter, you know already, you got to clean the snow off the blade, right? This is why the quote from Albert Einstein is very useful here. Of only two things that are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. It's that bad, okay? And then we got Professor Barack Obama, who actually able to publish a scientific paper before he escaped the office. He called it the irreversible momentum of clean energy. I think you guys study physics to understand this irreversible momentum. They're trying to sell all kinds of strange stuff. I felt pity for him, you know, that he felt that he has to write a scientific paper. A paper published in Science magazine. Excuse me. No wonder he's giving a award to himself. By the way, it's so psychotic now, I tell you, somebody got to help them. At least I will be the first one to go and slap them and wake them up. Hey guys, wake up. No violence, but I just say, wake up guys. On the inauguration day, these people have the audacity in a great state of Massachusetts. I felt really bad living there. My kid really asked me, Daddy, when are we going to Texas? And You really say that we're going to go 100% renewable. These people really don't even know how you generate energy. Totally clueless people. Massachusetts, we want to have what you call 100% renewable electricity by 2035. And then, of course, no more fossil fuel by 2050. This is, by the way, like Ed was saying, they are very well coordinated. This is not simply come from Massachusetts. It's everywhere. California is one of them. And now in United Nations, the party that's going on now in Bonn, Germany, they're issuing things like that. Urgently need 100% renewable. It's everywhere. They push this 100% to the point where they even publish paper in National Proceeding of Academy of Science, a scientist from, a professor from Stanford. And then when somebody publishing a paper saying that 100% is not possible, excuse me, the number doesn't work out, guess what he do? He sued those guys. For the first time in the history of science, somebody don't agree with him. He sued those people and say that they're damaging his reputation. This is the kind of game we're playing. This is how small renewable energy is. They don't dare to show you this graph, by the way. They always use wood. This is why I say it's very helpful to look at the graph. The amount of energy supply in the US is coal, oil, and gas. That's it. The rest of it is just very small amount. Right here. What am I going to do about it? You're going to turn the 1% into 90% by just hand waving? My hand's going to be really, really tired after that. By the way, there's a real physical reason why that we could never ever use sun and solar so easily. It's been tried for a long time, believe me. We come from that. It's called something called power or energy density. It's too dilute of a form. The sun just doesn't shine at night, right? When we're seeing the other way, I'm so sorry. And when the wind don't blow, what am I going to do? The battery technology has been promised just like fusion energy for a long time. It never happened. It's a very difficult class of problem. You don't need the ambitions of Al Gore or Elon Musk to selling this fake, substandard, sub-technology, sub-everything. I'm so sorry for them. I felt very humiliated, really bothered by that sort of attitude. They are the innovator. They have this brain as if we scientists doesn't know anything. Yeah, Al Gore, okay, we should go generate 100%. No, we're thinking about it day in, day out, day in, day out. I'm so sorry, It doesn't work. So you can see, right, the wind and renewable, they're way low, about zero. Coal, all this stuff are generally, this is why they are so useful. Okay? I would say we should just use it all. Here's the problem. If you look at the history of quote-unquote renewable energy, do you guys know that we were 100% renewable before? Because that's all we do. We burn wood, cow dung, whatever you want. We're doing all those kind of things. From 1800 until now, we're trying to go away from renewable. We're going toward using fossil fuel. We're getting better and better to zero. They want us to go back right now. Okay? This is the idea that they're proposing. This is why I like this quote from Professor Colin McInnes from Scotland, who actually are saying that, the beginning of the transition from wood to coal in the Elizabethan era allow us to escape from this limit of photosynthesis, of diffuse biomass. Later, we found oil, methane, natural gas, and even uranium, which is the nuclear power. That's the highest energy density you can find. In fact, it's way above the chart. You've got to go all the way up to the sky to see that the chart, if I plot that thing just now under the same graph. And these people are going towards basically more and more expensive and less efficient energy. That's what they want to tell us. It is absolutely a regression, not a revolution like this Al Gore and I'm sorry, Elon Musk. Okay. So please, y'all can read English, right? Can we read this quote together? Here we have a very simple situation. The politicians are throwing money that they do not have at a problem that does not exist in order to finance solution that makes no difference. What a smart people. I really can help with you. It's a very nice quote. This book was written by this guy who wrote a book called Hubris. But then they say, Willie, you're so wrong. The consensus. There's some consensus of scientists believing this and that, You're so bad. Here, in response, I will put the man called Galileo Galilei. Because he is being punished by the Catholic Church. In the question of science, the authority of 1,000 is not worth the humble reasoning of a single individual. Indeed, this is the kind of stuff that especially younger kids should take to heart. Okay? That this is very, very important about the aspect of science. Science is not about showing how beautiful you are, how ugly you are, or today I feel better and all that. No, nothing to do with it. It's about scientific evidence. So now we're going to study CO2 in the context of all the energy flow in the climate system, by the way, right? So you can see we're actually dealing with something called the greenhouse effect, which is really true. That this is physically, in physics, this is really reasonable, it's okay. But the most important energy source in the climate system is nothing but the sun. Okay, I'll show you more at the end of it. But now I want to explain the greenhouse effect. Do you guys know what is the most important greenhouse gas in the planet? In the planet, yeah. Very well educated. You see, it's not CO2 at all. In fact, I want to say that if you want to study carbon dioxide, greenhouse effect in the climate system, all you need to do is study this guy, H2O. Or something they call dihydrogen oxide, right? You're going to bend that one, right? But water in all its phases, vapor, ice, snow, and liquid form, which is really something that scientists have been struggling for close to a few hundred years, not able to conquer any of this very difficult problem. So scientifically, it's interesting and challenging. But I want to show you the context of water involved in the climate system versus CO2. CO2, you can only come in the form of in the air, atmosphere. Okay? And then you look at how water vapor come in. It come into atmospheric composition, water vapor, it go into the surface area, relative humidity, soil moisture, precipitation. Let me click all of them. The water are involved in just about every aspect of this chart. Whereas by the way, it didn't show up, but CO2 only in the atmospheric composition. Oops. Okay, just to show you how important water vapor is. These people are saying as if that we can tell the water vapor from the evil man and versus the natural part of it. I'm so sorry, it doesn't work like that. To show you how important, by the way, talk all you want. To show you how important water vapor is, look carefully at this chart, by the way. It shows the distribution from basically North Pole to South Pole, minus 90 to plus 90 is over there, minus 90 here. And then showing you the vertical height from 0 to 20 kilometers. The top chart is actually showing you the temperature. So it's warm near the surface, it's cooler at the up in the air. But the bottom part is showing you the amount of water vapor in it. It shows you how well correspondent within water vapor and temperature is. It shows you the tight relationship, okay? This is why I say CO2, by the way, CO2 doesn't appear like this, right? It's either CO2 illusion or CO2 delusion. By the way, this is a manipulated image. So for that, I would say, President Obama wants to get rid of CO2, and then I guess every morning, by the way, I wake up, no matter how imperfect President Trump is, you know, people claim he's this and that. I thank God every day for President Trump, or else America will cease to be. But we have to answer the question, what is climate? It's not simple. Climate, it doesn't work just by talking about CO2 in the atmosphere. I'm so sorry. Just to give you a short, concise way to say about climate, to study climate, you need to understand astronomy, solar physics, geology, geochronology, geochemistry, sedimentology, tectonic, paleontology, paleoecology, glaciology, climatology, meteorology, oceanography, ecology, archaeology, and history. And that's not even complete. You know, it's just a preliminary attempt to try to say, this is how complex this study is. And with their kind of arrogance, they're not able to see this sort of thing from themselves. But science is also, again, not about emotion. You have to ask yourself, can we test this idea? Because it's about hypothesis rejection, right? See if we can reject certain bad ideas, you know, so that you can go on with some clearer path forward, rather than being confused all day long. So did CO2 really rise according to the CO2 plan? Let's look at the climate measurement to see what does it do. First, we look at carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It's really true. It's been rising from about, you know, 300 to about 400 right now. Over, like, you know, from 1960. So about 40, 50 years now, right? By the way, do you guys know in percentage what 400 parts per million mean? Anybody wants to give that number in percentage? It's 0.04%. So in number wise, it's very, very small. That's why they plot a graph like this, make it look so big. The graph is also one of the arts, okay? But the question is also not about the concentration, actually, okay? But anyway, to put an analogy, you know how much carbon dioxide has increased over the last decades? So every decade it increased about 20 parts per million. But 20 parts per million is equivalent to basically just adding 2 more people in the Rose Bowl over 1 decade. I once heard a joke from a comedian who said that, oh, if the sea level is rising. By the way, it's rising at the order of about 2 to 3 milliliters per year, or maybe like 4 inches in a century. He said that, you know what, if the sea is actually rising at 4 inches a year and you don't know how to step back, you deserve to die. Numbers are very important, by the way, so don't get deceived by all of this kind of nonsense that they're putting out. But there's a way to test this. There's actually a scientific paper that came out last year to say that the greenhouse effect that they were able to show is actually not showing up anymore. Remember, this is a sure thing. We all know what CO2 is a greenhouse gas, right? Water vapor is, right? It was rising, don't you see? But you see what happened? It was rising from 80 to 90, 92 or so, and then it flattened out. This is actually quite a definitive scientific test, by the way. And you quantify in terms of the greenhouse effect, it's actually not doing anything. Remember, CO2 is rising very rapidly right now, if you remember the curve. So this is the way to actually kind of understand that they are on the wrong path. Okay, to give me a little bit of confidence to try to share this result with you. Remember, they say this is a complicated chart and you don't know how to read this and all that. It's really not that difficult. Just invest a little time. I'm sorry, if you want to know a topic, you have to work very hard to study some issues, right? So that you can be speaking to your peers and your family more, more competently, or ask questions, ask interesting questions, so we will help you.